Hey, Trackies, back to another video here. Yeah, I know it's been a minute, guys. I've been going through it. And if you want to hear exactly what's going on, sure, wait till the end of the video. I'll tell you there. Guys, please remember to like, share, subscribe. Please subscribe as well to my backup channel just in case this one implodes. Um, please go ahead and subscribe over there. I'll start dropping content over there as well. So to, make you guys come over there as well. Because I realize you ain't going over there to do anything. So please head on over there and subscribe. That being said, Grand Slam. Oh my gosh, the first evening. From a production standpoint, I have to say, A1. I don't think I've ever seen anything this exhilarating, even with the stands empty. And we'll get to the stands being empty, but production quality wise, it was absolutely top tier because again, looking at it visually, I could tell that the stands were empty, but the vibe that I got, it didn't feel as though the stands were empty, which is amazing for a track meet because usually when the stands are empty, it comes off, pretty dull. That's not what I got. So as I said, kudos to Grand Slam. Definitely high quality there. Don't think I've ever seen anything like that. Even when I compare it to championships, like a world championships, Olympic Games, definitely I'm thinking 2019 Doha for me was exhilarating because of what they tried to incorporate from an engagement perspective and entertaining perspective, and I thought it really worked. But again, the stands were around packed as well. For Doha, for the stands to be pretty much empty in Jamaica and still be able to pull off such a fantastic show for me was great. The stands were empty, yes. That's a bit troublesome. I was expecting a bit more fans, though I did say in a previous video that I'm not sure we'll be able to see the turnout that people are hoping to see because Jamaicans don't really turn up, not even for champs anymore. God bless what you see on Champs Saturday, given that they've moved the 100 meters from Champs Friday, right? So I did discuss this. I said it would be a challenge, and clearly, it was a challenge more than I thought it would be. As I said, I did expect to see a bit more people there. There are people online saying that, different events going on, the expo going on, caused, a lot of the traffic delays as well for multiple people trying to get there. Certain people didn't get there as well. A few people online saying, we were priced out of the event. There's that thought process, and there are few people online saying that hey, maybe the event should have started later, given that this is Jamaica traffic. We leave work at a certain time. There's nobody that would have been able to get there in time for a 5:46 start for the first race, right? So all these things need to be taken into consideration, I suppose, next time around. But for now, I'm hoping it doesn't deter Grandstand because, as I said, the production was crazy. I really was visually engaged, the whole time. Yes, the commentary, and I think the only Jamaicans really find problem with the commentary because we hear certain things that other people probably won't pick up on. So I think that we're probably the only ones that notice that. So I wouldn't say that there maybe was anything wrong with the commentary, just that we find a problem with it, right? But outside of that, track it was amazing. I definitely thought it was amazing, and I'm looking forward to more stagings of Grand Slam for sure. And I'm also looking to see other, bodies, whether it be World Athletics or the Olympics, probably incorporate some of the things that I saw from Grand Slam as well to make it, a show as well, because that's what you want the sport to be as well for the fans at least. You know what I mean? Yes, the athletes are there running, but make it entertaining. And I thought they did a pretty good job there. Absolutely. As I said, I've never seen anything like this. So, and the Jamaican track, oh my God, the track just made everything that much more special. I don't know if it was the track, but the track just was fire. Trackies, it was fire. It just made everything just look that much more amazing. Anyway, let's jump into the actual performances, guys. It's early season, right? Most of these athletes are running their first race for 2025. So I would say take these performances with a grain of salt. It's pretty much just to gauge where the athletes are so that they can go back into training and fine tune for the rest of their competition for 2025 till they eventually get to the World Championships, which is the big one. Or maybe before the World Championships, their trials, right? Because that's a major one as well, qualifying for the World Championships. But yeah, for the most part, take it with a grain of salt. I'm a little confused though because I thought I finally understood Grand Slam. I was trying for months to understand what was the thought process here, and I was like, okay, it looks like I understand now. And looks like I don't, because I was thinking that everybody that was competing in the 200 meters would be competing together. So whether you were competing from the long sprints perspective or short sprints perspective, you would meet, and where you'd meet would be the 200 meters. That's not what I saw last evening. The 200 meters from the long sprints perspective was run, but nothing from the short sprints perspective. So it made me think, so how exactly are you going to split this difference now? Is it a case where, it's two separate crowns for the 200, like Noah was saying, which to me doesn't make any sense? Or are they going to collate the performances at the end of the day, and whoever has the fastest time is the eventual winner? I'm confused because the points are already doled out, right? So again, I'm like, what? I don't know what's going on here. But anyway, like Noah said, I don't think you can say you have two 200-meter champions in anything, in any one event. So it's a little confusing. So I'm hoping that they can, iron that part out. And if that's what they're doing, then they need to change it, because I don't think it makes any sense. Anyway, the performances. Let's jump into the women's 200 meters. For the most part, I thought the performances went, according to how they were supposed to go. If you looked at who was performing so far in 2025, who didn't, I thought for the most part it was spot on, right? That being said, I was kind of, tempted to bet and, throw some wild bets out there and hoping that, it didn't go according to plan. Luckily, I didn't bet, because I would have lost all my money. Oh my gosh. So let's jump into the long sprints and the women and the 200 meters, right? Because Gabby won. She ran at 22.62. I think everybody was expecting Gabby to win. What though surprised me is that I kind of had Salwa a bit higher. I kind of put Salwa in second. She was fourth here. She ran at 22.99. My Lady Paulino was second. She ran a season's best 22.93, and Dina was third, 22.96. This was done in a negative zero point 0.2 meters per second wind, so negligible as far as I'm concerned. This kind of changes things for me when it comes to Marlady and that 400 meters for sure. Because again, coming in, Salwa had done that 400, 200 back to back, a personal best 22.45. Plus a season's best 48.94. So really crazy performances coming in. And then so see her coming to this competition, not, see it a bit higher than Paulino, is a bit questionable, because Paulina was coming through like a gazelle, very long strides as well, to take that second place. Dina, I think Dina was where I thought Dina would finish. I thought Dina would finish third, actually, right? Given that this is her pet event, but given what I saw from her already, she's run a 4x4, so I wasn't really expecting anything super fast from Dina, right? So that's where I slotted her, actually, and that's where she came. From a Jamaican perspective, Stacy was there. She was seventh, 23, sorry, 0.35, and Nikisha Price was eighth, 23.75. Nikki Shaw's barely ran, so well within my expectations as well. For Stacy, I think when you compare what everybody else has been doing, Alexis Holmes has definitely been, competing a bit stronger than she has. So I think the performances in general pretty much ended up where they were supposed to. The only one that I'm really surprised about was where Marley finished versus where Salwa finished, because no, this kind of changes things in my opinion for the 400, right? So I want to jump over to the men's long sprints, and I don't like how they separate these races as well. It's hard to understand what I'm searching for. Maybe it's just me, I don't know. I think Christopher Bailey went in as, heavy favorite after coming off a world indoors gold medal. He won here running a world lead 44.34. Again, going in, I was thinking that he would be the heavy favorite. Matthew Hudson tried to challenge him in the first 300, you would say, of the race, but Christopher Bailey was able to pull away for a strong win in the end. Matthew Hudson was second with a 44.65, and Vernon Norwood was third with a 44.70. Really strong from him, because I was expecting Jamaicans to be up in it from a Zandrian Barnes perspective. I don't know why they have a wind here, negative zero point 0.4. Wind doesn't matter in the 400s, or anything above the 200s. Wind doesn't matter in. So I'm confused why a wind is here, since the wind will change depending on where you are on the track for the 4. I was expecting Zandrian Barnes, as I said, to be up there. Oh, I just realized he was DQ'd. Say what now? Okay, so Zandrian Barnes was disqualified. Crazy. And they don't put, okay, I'm just realizing this, guys. So that's interesting. DeAndre Watkin, that won over 400 meters last season, was one of the season's best 45.45. So well within my thoughts. I was just hoping that Zandriano would have figured a bit more. I believe in the original he finished around I want to say fourth-ish, fifth-ish. I think it was fourth, but I'm not sure what's going on here in terms of why he got DQ'd. I'm just going to have to double check that after the fact. So he ended up being DQ'd, which is tough for Janjian because that's no money. Wow. Wow, 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 wow. Wasn't expecting that. Um, mm. Let's move on though from that race, and I want to jump into some of the short hurdles. Let's go into the long hurdles. Yes, long hurdles. Alisa dos Santos took that race and he ran a 47.61 world lead. I'm thinking that most people thought, Alison would win this race, so no surprise there. Roshawn was second, my pick for second as well. 48.20. Third was Caleb Dean from America, 48.58. Interesting though track is what I loved about this competition was Rashawn Clark and how much he looks so much better technically. I've been talking about Rashawn Clark, and I believe the reason why he wasn't able to compete as strongly as I believe he can is because technically over the hurdles he wasn't that clean, and he's cleaned it up a lot. And I'm so surprised and so happy because I've been talking about it for a while. So seeing the effort made by his coaching staff this season to make sure that he's clean technically, and I think that's why, especially when you compare what happened between himself and Malik James King in 2024. I thought that's why he really lost out to Malik, because he wasn't as clean and wasted energy pretty much going over those hurdles. And as such, he lost out. So seeing him this clean and a 48.20 to start out the season is a good look for Rashawn. And Rashawn for sure may pull off Dos Santos when Dos Santos came in the league for 2025. Though I have to say, unfortunately for him, when you look at who's, is above him, Allison is there, as well as Rai, and of course, the world record holder. So, I mean, it's going to be tough for him to medal, but I definitely think he can, compete a bit strongly against them in 2025 for sure. Malik James came was fourth. I still struggle with how he competes. His first 200 looks a bit too slow for me. So I'm hoping that he can work on that. But still solid opener, 48.69. Strong, strong opener for me, guys, from our Jamaicans. And Asini Wilson was seventh in this race, and he ran a 53.24. Definitely has to work on that. There's also another DQ here, Clement Deuce, right? So before this recording, guys, I didn't know that there were any DQs. So I pretty much got up with the thought process to just record this video. So now I'm seeing that there were DQs. So it's quite surprising. So I can't really say why they were DQ'd, since there's no rule here that was quoted as well. It's something that I'll have to look into after the video, the recording of the video, right? So let's jump into the meat of the matter, which is probably what I'm going to title this video anyway. And that's the men's short sprints. Yeah, that's the men's short sprints. And this is where I thought we would have a Jamaican win for sure, hands down. But surprisingly, we didn't win. Kenny Benerick walked away with the win, 10.07 seconds. And this was done in a negative 1.3 meters per second wind. I would judge it as maybe a rough 9.9 mid, right? So that's my rough estimation. I actually didn't check it on the calculator, but I can judge it sometimes. So that's where I'll put it. Oblique was second. He ran a 10.08. Zarnell was third, 10.13, and Akeem Blake was fourth, 10.13 as well, only separated by clearly the thousandth of a second. Really close racing from these top four. I would say, I'm not sure what's going on with Fred Curley, but here how I describe Fred Curley. He was seventh here, 10.30. He's very inconsistent to me. I've been realizing that in recent times. So sometimes he may run good and you're like, okay, you're gonna call him for a one-off meeting win, but then he turns up and he doesn't perform, how you think. But when championships rolls around, he tends to, show up and compete well. So, I mean, though this, performance wasn't good in my opinion, I mean, it's the first race and I don't think it matters that much. So, yeah. Um, Again, the performances in general don't really matter that much to me. But what I will point out is I appreciate Kenny Benerick. Over the years, you can definitely see the incremental improvements in his technique, and it showed here as well, surprising me a lot. This year, America has four people that they'll be able to send to the World Championships: the defending champion Noah Lyles, plus three more. I definitely think Kenny is putting himself as a strong bid to compete over that 100 meters. When we talk about going up a lane to likes of Fred Curley, also when you think about probably throwing in a Christian Coleman, and any other American that would be challenging Courtney Lindy's and the likes, right? So let's see how that goes. But I think he's putting himself really, really strong to feature and figure when it comes to competing for America in this 100 meters and globally as well. Who knows if he can find himself on the podium in the near future, right? I definitely think this was very, very strong going for him. Oblique, as I said, I thought Oblique would win. When it comes to times, I have no problem with, as I said, the time. It's the first race of the season. I'm completely comfortable with the performance from that perspective. What I'm not comfortable with, guys, is something that I've pointed out for years now, is Oblique Seville in a race towards the end of the race and pulling up. By pulling up, I mean easing up, right? He did that in this race. And then also he was looking over. And but it's a stark contrast between himself and Kenny Benerick, because when I look at Kenny Benerick running that race, and guys, I'd love to put snippets in the video for you to see what I'm saying. Unfortunately, me as a certain people, body rights fee, grandson, and y'all know I'm already in problems when it comes to them. I don't want no more headaches, so I not put no snippet in the video. So I'm sorry. So it is what it is. But when you look at it, it's the stark contrast between him being focused on the finish line and competing strongly and ensuring that he got to the line and dipped to ensure that he took the win. With Oblique Seville, easing down or easing up and looking where he's not supposed to be looking, other than face forward. That took away from the him potentially winning. And I definitely thought he could have won if he just ran the race like he's supposed to be competing. Guys, I can't stress this enough. None of these athletes are Usain Bolts, not even Asafa Powell, Johan Blake. None of these athletes are, competing to the level that they were competing at. I don't think I recall seeing, Johan ease down in races much, if ever, when he was competing on the circuit. Y'all can correct me if I'm wrong. I know Asafa did it from time to time, depending on who he was racing against. Clearly Usain did it, a lot because he could, because he was that far ahead of everybody else. But none of these athletes are them. And I keep wondering why our Jamaicans keep easing up at the line and looking over like we're that far ahead of everybody else. No, we're not. If you look at the Olympic finals, Noah Lyles won 9.79. Kishen was second, the same 9.79. There was no room for any looking over, no nothing. If you weren't focused to head towards the line, then you could have lost out. I mean, Fred Curley was right behind them. What was that, a 9.81 or 80, right? And then, if you looked at the other times, 9.82 behind that. And that's how close everybody is in terms of competing. So when you're slowing down and easing up and looking over and all these things in the race, it takes away from, again, your placing. Again, as I said, time for me doesn't really matter in this type of meeting and this type of first outing. But for sure, your placing does matter, because this would have been a solid win for him. And it wasn't because he eased up. And by the time he was looking over there to say, oh, I'm cruising in, he spots Kenny Benerick going into the line. He tries to, do a dip, but it was too late. You know what I mean? So he definitely needs to stop that for sure. I know my sister is probably over there rolling, rolling, I tell you, because I remember last year she said to me after the heat at the Olympic Games, she said, if Oblique Seville looks over in the semifinal, he's not winning that race. And he looked over in the semifinal, and I was like, oh my gosh, no, please. I'm praying to God, that's not what happened. And he eventually pulled up with an injury, right, in that 100-meter finals. But for sure, Oblique needs to work on how to execute that 100 meters through the line, through the actual line. You can look around, do all your showmanship, your showboating, you know what I mean, after the race. But when it's this close, I definitely don't think he should be doing that. So he needs to work on it. And until he works on it, then he's gonna find himself potentially in these, problems, over and over again, because again, this should have been his race, for sure, in my opinion. But yeah, it wasn't, unfortunately. Um, but I'm still looking forward to seeing him in the 200 meters. Kenny looks like he's shooing for that 200 meters. And by shooing, I mean shooing for the $100,000. For sure, given that he's already took the 100. So I mean, unless some a rock drops on his head while he's running, I don't know who's gonna stop him in that too, right? So let's see how that goes. I'm hoping for strong competition from Oblique there, as well as Akeem. Let's see if Fred can come back. Fred was like, okay, we just come back for the next one. So let's see what Fred has in the 200, for sure. But yeah, guys, those are my thoughts as it relates to what happened at the Grand Slam. All right, so what's going on from a TXT track time perspective? I'm nowhere closer to getting this issue resolved, guys. I know I set up the GoFundMe. I asked you all to donate, and I did reach out to lawyers to get the issue resolved. Just to retain the lawyer is 150K, right? So I'm pretty much at a stop or a standstill when it comes to that side of things. From my perspective, though, I did reach out to Television Jamaica, but I haven't heard back. I reached out to them, on multiple occasions, and I haven't heard back. So, I'm still keeping my fingers crossed. As I said, I'm leaving it to God, um, because there's not much that I can do in a situation like this, honestly. So let's see how things go from there. If you all still want to donate so that I can, carry this forward, feel free. The GoFundMe will still be linked in the description below. That being said, guys, I'll catch you all in another one. As I said, I'll be posting on the other channel as well, to look out for content there as well. Like, subscribe. Bye.